Okay, so now what I'm going to be doing is restoring that image that I made, or backup image that I made of the BigBlueButton virtual machine that I'd customized. Because obviously, if you're going to customize a BigBlueButton instance or a machine, you don't want to just have all of those customizations disappear. So you want to have a backup copy of it somewhere. And so here we have it sitting on the so here we have it sitting on the server that I copied it to. So that's the image there, and it's 4.8 gigs. And so what I'm going to have to do now is get it back onto a Linode. So as we can see, we've got no volumes and we've got no Linode. So at the moment we're not spending anything with Linode at the moment, and our bank account is safe. So now what we have to do is, if we have, say, a chat coming up that we want to, have people partake in, or a meeting, I should say, that we have people to partake in, or you can call it a conference, then we want to get the Linode back online and to get our image back in so that we can be ready for it. So the first thing you got to do is just create a Linode. And because the current version of BigBlueButton is 2.7 and it runs specifically on Ubuntu 20.04 LTS, and of course go from our usual region. But obviously you can choose a region. If people are in different countries, then you can choose a region which is close to all of them, so they can at least maybe get a bit better speed. And like I say, the dedicated CPU is fine, and even though they say it's a minimum of 4 CPUs, I find that when I use it with 2 CPUs, it still performs well when you've got a few people. But of course, if you're going to have more than, say, 10 people, then I would go for their minimum, which is to have 4 CPUs. Alright, so let me just do the usual, give it a label just so that you can identify which one it is. Of course, put the SSH keys in, but SSH key doesn't matter because we're going to overwrite that image anyway. Okay, so that's ready, and we got around $36 a month, and so we just create it. Alright, so now we've got this IP address, and we need to use that. So I need to use that just to set up the DNS, which I'll just be doing now while this is being created. Okay, so that's running. So now what we just have to do is start it up in. Just go outside so we can get the percentage indicator. So now we've just got to start it in rescue mode. And we don't need to attach any images to it because we're going to copy it straight across the internet. As you can see, my monthly transfer is up to 25% because of all the data I've been transferring. So you have to. That's one thing about Linode you have to watch out for. Is that while your Linode is running, you get a whole heap of transfer. But the minute that you delete the Linode, your transfer pool will jump up. And of course, if you got 100% with no Linodes, then you're going to have a hard time copying any data off, because that's all this transfer is. But they give you a lot anyway, so when you have a Linode running for even a reasonable amount of time, you end up with a lot of transfer pool. Alright, so that's running in rescue mode, so now we just have to start the console. Right, so now, like I say, I usually like to run screen, just in case something happens, because sometimes the Lich console can crash on you. But if you're in screen, then it's easy to recover it. So now what we're going to do is just check to see. It should be SDA, but sometimes it changes, and the swap ends up on a different. Let's see, yeah, so that's SDA. So what we have to do now is just type out so like I say, same thing as before. Now this end has no firewall, whereas this end does have a firewall, so that means this image I have to push it out. So the command is similar to before, but now what's happening is I'm gonna have to PV it from this end, and then I'm gonna pipe it to NC, and then what I need is the IP address for here. So obviously I can get that from, so it's this address here that we're after. So let me just pipe it to NC. And if you got a newer version of NC, you use -Q 2 or a number like 1, 2, or 3. But because this is an old version, I've got to use W. So I'm sending it the image to that address, and then of course the usual port. And so then on here, well no, sorry, it's in rescue mode. So now I'm going to receive it. So because this has got no firewall, I'm going to be listening on this machine. So we listen and then we give it the port number, and the data that comes in, we're going to send it to XZCat, and we've got to specify the amount of CPUs, or it will only use one CPU and be a bit slow. And then what comes out of XZCat, we then pipe that to DD. And the thing is, I was just going to say that some people feel like skipping the DD part. But the thing about it is that DD is a specialist at writing to block devices, because you can specify the block size for the write, whereas if I just send XZCat straight to the device, I wouldn't be able to specify a block size. When you're writing to a block device, the block size you specify can speed things up quite a lot. Let me just want the status. Right, and so because this side is the listener, we have to start this end first. So we start the listener first, and then we push it from this end. And one thing I've noticed is that this server that I'm on is actually a bit slow for outgoing. So the outgoing data from this server I've got is a bit throttled, and it's just the because I'm with Ionos, and I think they throttled the outgoing data on their VPSs, and that's one of the reasons why I want to change over at some point. But as you can see, it's still going across at a sort of reasonable pace. But definitely, if you're going to be doing something like this on a reasonably regular basis, then I'd suggest making sure you get a decent VPS where they don't throttle your incoming or outgoing. And you can see here how the data is being decompressed and then pushed onto the block device. Right, so that's finished being sent over. So here we can see it's put 18 gigs back onto the SDA drive. So we finished with this console. So if we go back to the Linode, then we just got to restart it. You see, we've gone from 25%. So because I've got Linode running, now it's back down to 6% again. But of course, because I transferred those 4.8 gigs in, once this Linode is deleted, it'll jump back up again. But one thing's for sure, you're much better off with Linode, where you've got this transfer pool, rather than AWS, where they just charge you behind your back for some. And the thing is, their network costs at AWS are very expensive, relatively. So if you've got a lot of data to transfer, it's almost not worth using AWS, because they're just so expensive. Alright, so it's back up. And now what you think is that, okay, it's back up, so everything's done, and we should be able to go straight back onto it. So I mean, we can try. Okay, so it's giving us bad gateway. So what it is, it's just that it takes a while to start up. So you have to give it a while. We can even just check if you check the Lish console, it actually tells you what's going on. Okay, it says it's starting. Okay, so it's clouding it, so that should be up then. So let's see what, I think it's still taking a while. That's the only problem with using a underpowered an underpowered system is that you can end up being a bit slow. Okay, so we just got to switch over our key. Because what happens is that it redoes the SSH host keys on the virtual machine, even though it's an image. Seems like they get something changes, and so you have to remove the old host key because it somehow gets updated, even though you've got an image. So then you just connect back in, and that's it. We're in. So okay, so everything should be up. So you just got to make sure once you stop using a lot of CPU. Alright, yeah, so we're back in. So you just have to be a bit patient because there's some Java services that start up in the background, and when you're using a slightly underpowered virtual machine, they do take longer to start. But as you can see, once they've started, the memory use is okay. They do use a lot of memory at the beginning, and that's why you definitely need 4. If you try and running this on 2 gigs isn't possible. The 4 gigs really is minimum just for it to be able to start. But you can get away with the 2 CPU cores, but of course then the boot up is slow and you just have to get used to that. So as you can see, this is still our customized version of BigBlueButton. It's got our icon, and the name. And we've still got rid of this part down here, which normally had something in it. Obviously, we could add something, but that's for another day. If someone wants me to add something in here, I don't know, whatever, then I could try and go through that procedure. But for now, it's just showing that it is customizable. So if I sign in, now what I want to do, let me see, I just want to check something. Right, so everything looks like it's good, and it'll probably even work as well. So if we try to start a room, right, so we've got the dots. Let's try to listen. Let's try to establish audio, and this is what I expected, that it's probably going to fail, and there's a reason for that. Because see, it says ICE timeout, and there's a reason why that's happened. So what it is everything that's good. I've got the image back, and I can log in, even start a meeting, but when it comes to the audio, it doesn't work, and there's a reason why. Because what happens is the IP address has changed, and that does cause some problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can find it. So I'm just going to mount the SSHFS again. So that's mounted. So the reason why I've just wanted to mount it is because, so here I'm in my user, and what it is that I actually have a magical, I've got that magical script which can fix that problem. And the thing about it is that without this magical script, it took a while for me to work out what was going on. So I realized that if I was going to be doing this in any kind of a serious way, so just copy that over. If I was going to do this in any kind of a serious way, I'm going to need to make sure that I can fix this problem, not by manually, because the manual fix it's a little bit tedious because of the amount of files you have to edit. So what it is, I ended up having to write this little magical script. And what it does is it just does the magic of fixing the IP address change. And you might think that, so why not just explain it? So, well, it took a while, that's just how it is. So if I run this, first thing I need to just end the meeting. Okay, so that's it. So the meeting's done. And usually I'll log out as well, even though I don't think you have to, but I just like to, so that there's nothing left of the old IP in the session on for the user that's logged in. So then I just run the magical script, And you can see it's got the old address and then the new one. And so it does all the changes, and then it restarts the BigBlueButton. And so now it's just going to do a check just to see if it can find any problems. And sometimes this part can be okay, and you can still have a problem, but that was just some minor things that just had to change. But what I found is that ever since I've finished, been using that magical script, once I finally put all the edits in it, that now the changes that it makes, they do the job, and it's been doing it every time, because, yeah, so that's fine. As long as you get to here and the prompt returns, yeah, that's it. And the reason why it's so slow, like I say, is just because I'm running 2 cores. But, it still works okay for a few people. Alright, so if we sign back in, let me start up the meeting again. Let me just go in. And that's it. So now our audio is working. And just to show that's the case, because the I just heard the sound, so I know the audio is okay, because what it is without the IP address change, the free switch configuration is messed up because it's still got the old IP, and so basically your audio won't work. So you've got a few things running, but I'm not going to bother to join with the microphone, because then it's going to probably cause problems with the recording. But there it is. So we're in, and the audio works. And you notice how quickly. See, this is how quickly you're supposed to join into the audio. If you don't get into the audio immediately like this, then there's something wrong. And there's something you have to check in the installation, because it should all, once everything's booted and all the processes have finished what they're doing, then you should actually be a pretty smooth experience when you're going into when you're logging into here. So I'm just going to check on the phone as well that it's okay. Okay, so I'll just go in. Okay, so just approve this. Yeah, this is a bit slow just because my phone is old, so the CPU, and it's because the JavaScript itself is getting slower. So if I do microphone, hello. Yeah, so as you see, I'm in, and to be able to listen, and if I do the microphone, hello. Yes, you got the feedback there, so that's obviously working. And so as you see, that was pretty straightforward to get it back up and running on Linode from nothing. And so I'm really just showing this so that if someone, so people can know that this is one of the good things about Linode, because the rescue system is so advanced or so good, it makes it easy to be able to get your image back on and to overwrite the whatever virtual machine you choose. And that's one of the reasons why I like Linode, because this process is very easy and I've gotten used to it, and I'm actually using it myself whenever I want to have a quick do a live stream and have a chat that people can sort of log into. And essentially I'm using this instead of StreamYard, because the main reason I didn't like StreamYard is that there was a time when I was testing it out, then I had an old iPhone, and then when I tried to go in, it said, the StreamYard said that I needed a certain minimum version of iOS, and I thought, that's a surprise. So essentially StreamYard at any time can decide that your phone is too old, and I thought that's nonsense. So that's why I instead set it up on BigBlueButton, because obviously BigBlueButton doesn't care about what phone you use, just as long as the phone can handle the JavaScript they're using. And I mean, the phone I'm using that I've just connected with, this Android, is from 2014. So it's 10 years old and it still works fine on this. Of course, StreamYard would say your phone is too old, but I know the phone is fine and can do the job really well. And even in some ways, it's even faster than a newer phone running a newer version of Android. So there's no reason to use StreamYard and have to throw away my old phone. That's just pointless. So that's actually one big reason why I prefer BigBlueButton. So I'm just wanting to do this video to show how easy it is to run the BigBlueButton or Linode and even save money, while you're using it as well.